you're not going to get it all at one hit, are you?
No. Generally speaking,
So
you know,
work on the toes and then come up the leg and see how you're going,
yeah.
and then come back to the toes and just work them up again and keep working them up.
The toes are very, very important,
Okay.
especially the big toe.
Now, when is enough, like on the toes and that? So I know when the tension's gone, obviously, but like during the course of a treatment that is going to be restricted by time, how much, like you do a whole layer up the legs, or you just focus on the toes, or I know you got to sort of judge it each person, but like when would you, like, we got down to the point of using that spoon on rock, right? I mean, how much further than that do you go before you move on and move up the body?
It does depend on each treatment. There's times where you do the whole treatment just on the feet. You could spend 2 or 3 hours on a big toe and still not get all the tension out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know the tension's gone is when you rub it down hurt.
That's right. And it's soft.
It's soft.
As well. And all the joints are nice and soft, and they're loose, and they move smoothly and into its full range of movement. You don't feel any resistance there. Big toes are one of those ones you can. I know for myself, my big toe often needs hours worth of work, and you've experienced that. Working on my big toe. And then gradually what happened, all of a sudden the big toe clicked into place, and then you were able to, you know, feel that release, and then you were able to work whatever release you got out of the big toe, you were then able to get that out higher up. So say for example you release 20% of the tension in the big toe, well, you should be able to get 20% out higher up the body. If you got 30% out, you should be able to get 30% out. So what may happen is you get 20% out of the big toe, then you work up and you get the other 20% out, because the body likes to be a little bit in balance there. You're not going to often get, when somebody that's really tight, you're not often going to get 100% out of that big toe and then have all this tension left over. Often you have to do it in layers, and you have to take out the whole layer. And the other thing is that sometimes tension, usually we think of tension starting from the feet and the toes and coming up to the body, but there's instances where it doesn't occur like that. What happens is there's so much emotional congestion and chi congestion happening in their belly, and they're very, what you could almost call a liverish personality in Chinese medicine, because the liver governs tension in the body. And what happens is they're a very constricted type of person. They're very much like that. You'll often see a tight jaw and they're like this. And what happens is all of a sudden, if you manage to, you still might have to work a bit on their toes and their fingers perhaps to get in there, but all of a sudden sometimes you might get into their belly, and if they have a big chi release or an emotional release, then all of a sudden what happens is that energy comes from here and goes out, and then by having that energy out of the belly, the feet relax and the hands relax. So in that case, the release comes from the belly and goes to the feet.
What would be a key indicator of that?
A key indicator of that is extreme tightness in the body, where you're trying to work it and it's just like you're working up against concrete the whole time. It may be tight jaw in a person. It may be somebody that tends toward getting angry quite easily, or repressed anger, so that more of a frustrated kind of state tends to produce that kind of thing. And that's why there's like a lot of frustrated emotions in that person that tend to be a bit like this. That's why I said it tends to be like a tight jaw, and kind of almost like their arm, like they're tight like this, and like that, you know, maybe some intensity in the eyes. These are all signs of what you call liver kind of stagnation in Chinese medicine. And they're quite tricky to work on. I've worked people like that before, and and oftentimes they are very controlling kind of people as well, and not ready to eliminate their emotions very easily, or feel vulnerable in front of other people. And I've worked them really hard before, and you go, I'm so hard, you know, even for me, going very hard. And then virtually next time you see them, they're right back to where they were. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't keep working this person like this. And that's because what you really need to do with them is get a rhythm of breath going, and almost come from another angle instead of trying to butt into it. You're trying to get that breath and into the emotions where they can just start to let out that the opposite you need them to get that breath going. So sometimes it is that we work from the extremities in, but other times what it is we need to coax them into breathing properly, and the breath itself starts to clear things. And then the extremities also let go. So there's two different cases, and sometimes to get them breathing, maybe we need to do a certain amount of work on the extremities, but other times it's just a case of we do like a kneading, as if we're kneading bread, into the lower belly, into the dantian area, just below the belly button. We knead it. We get them to breathe in. And other times what we do is we calm their mind. So we just work maybe between the head and the belly. We calm their mind so that they can kind of relax and go, oh, that's nice. You know? And then we get them breathing. Like, maybe they start to let out some noise. And then what happens is the chi starts to move in their body, and maybe, oh wow, some emotion comes out. So it actually, the belly is controlled by the head, not from the feet. But the feet are tight because the belly is controlling the head and making the feet tight. So that's where the trickiness is, and that's where a strategy is different for every individual. Because you may have the, oh yeah, last massage I did, I really got into their toes, their feet, and then I released their knees and the belly let go and a whole chi release happened and everything. You do it on the next person, it doesn't work. And that's because for that person it's coming from their head. And so this is why it's very important to maintain a flexibility of the mind, and it's very important when we're treating people, always look at this individual and to go, is what I'm doing effective? Okay, I have a strategy because I've worked on 10,000 people before, and in those, you know, out of those 10,000, 1,500 have a very similar pattern of tension, and so therefore I've gained a certain amount of experience. I'm going to apply that to this particular situation, but always this is a new situation. Those 1,500 people could be different. There may be some other oddities that are particularly unique to this person. Every individual is completely a unique individual. And so always we have a strategy, we have a plan, but we have to be very flexible to figure out, is my plan working? And always, is it working? Is it getting rid of the tension? If we're working away thinking, okay, this is a good plan, this is a similar person to who I worked on before, if it all works, great, no problem. The tension's releasing. But if we're doing that, we're thinking this is going to work, but it doesn't work. We have to then go, okay, let me try something else. But usually it's the head, the hands, or the feet that we need to start.
So this